whakarongo ki te tangi a te korimako. Kōrero flowing out the hook of force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā kona whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira hira whakarongo pi kari kari mai. Hare hare mai, o Taringa hare hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody. Gather up close everybody. Kani move that body. Kani move that body.
Ka titiro atu au ki ngā whetū e kōreko maina i te pō i roto i te hina pōuri. Anō, ko rātou e kānapanapa nei i o tātou whakaaro hoi anō, anei tātou nā kanuhi ora o rātou mā. Ngai taringa o tata, o matara, o tawhiti, nau mai, hoki mai, ki a taringa, anei kia mātou tokotoru, anō nei ko tautoru.
Ooh.
Yeah, take that.
What?
Take that.
Take that, Rangi Mataamua. Anō nei ko... Anō nei ko tautoru e kōreko ana, engari anei atitahi mā rehua kua tai mai. Ko hoki mai ki tā tātou kaupapa. Nō reira, e hoa rangi tēnā koe hoki mai?
Kia ora e hoa mā, kei te mihi nui kia koutou katoa, ko tautoru, ko te mate pēr, ko tētai whakapākeatanga o tautoru, ko te pot. Nō reira, tēnā koutou te kōhua nui te rangi, nā mihi nui.
Tēnā koe. And yes, welcome back to everybody. And here we are again, myself, te puaheiri, no roto mai o nā puhi, me te mokopuna te whānāpa nui, Erica Sinclair. E mihi tōna na kia kōru e hoa mā. And of course, our tō tātou te star o te wā.
Te star.
Te tūkopura.
Taku hoa, maurua, rangi, nei mai hoki mai.
Kia ora, brother.
This is the number 3, eh? Ko hoki mai koe kia taringa.
Right. We're scraping the barrel. Bottom of the barrel. We're getting the bottom of the barrel.
Hey, I was the first. What are you saying?
And e te iwi kei te kōrero mai a Rangi Marunga i te Skype. And at the moment, he is in Ahitereiria, Hawaii ki kiri kura. E ai ki aku whakaaro. Kareo e tino kōrero i te pāpaka nui a Māui, hoi anō. Yeah, bro, too much. Kei Ahitereiria koe.
Yeah, so as part of my Matariki roadshow for this year, we've done 16 presentations throughout Aotearoa. Far south is Dunedin or Te Poti, and as far north as Whangarei, and the major destinations in the middle. And then we've got 4 shows here in Australia. This week we've done Brisbane and Gold Coast, and we've got Sydney tonight, and on Friday we've got Melbourne.
Mean.
Wow.
Tēnā koe.
Yeah, no, it's pretty full on, you know. It's pretty, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. I love it. It's been really cool going out and meeting everyone. And you know, we've had some pretty big crowds. I think we had like about just on 700 in Auckland.
Wow.
In Whangarei, we had 400 people, 400 in Tauranga. You know, we've had some big crowds. And it's been awesome. It's been, you know, pretty draining, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be really on when you're on stage, eh?
I've been trying to look at the lunar phases as well while I've been doing it. Yeah, and so I've had some really times that I've really felt in the groove, I guess, and other times it's been a little bit flat. I think we've spoken to maybe, it's heading towards 6,500, 7,000 people as part of this roadshow. But I've had 3 complaints so far.
Oh, that's not bad out of 16 shows.
Yeah, mostly it's around my inappropriate humour, you know.
Inappropriate to some, right?
Yeah.
To 3.
Before we move on, I'm going to throw it over to you. Hea tētahi kianga, tētahi kiwaha rānei, he ana koe ki te kōrero ki te iwi.
Karau te mohio mena he kiwaha, tēnei he kianga rānei. Engari, koe nei tētahi kōrero kua tuhia I roto I te puka taku tipuna koraua. So my ancestor writes this. I'm not too sure if it's actually officially a kiwaha, but I don't know what's wrong with us creating kiwaha, you know, and creating whakatauki. And
Snow creates them all the time.
All the time.
What he writes about is he writes about the word hinatore, which is one of the whānau marama, or it's a phosphorus light or a you know, a glimpse or a glimmer, I suppose is one way. But he seems to use it in his writing as to have an epiphany.
Kia ora.
Or when the penny drops, you know, and we've translated that whakatauki kua taka te kapa, you know, kua muranga raiti. His saying is when you say kua hinatore, you're saying, you know, I've had this flash of understanding, or I can see the glimmer at the end of the dark tunnel, or I can see the light. So I suppose it's similar kua mārama or kua whiti te rā, kua hinātore. He uses it definitely when it's having an epiphany or you really have kua pūrangi aho te māramatanga.
Pūrangi aho. Ooh, I like that word too. Pūrangi aho. Kua hinātore. Ono mano tāngata kua hinātore I roto I ngā kōrero ka horahi e koe. 6,000 people have been enlightened. The first time I heard that word, bro, was actually in e tangi tonu ana ki tō tāwa papa ki a te wharehuia. First time I heard the word hinātore was him. And he came to one of our graduations actually for the wānanga, and he was our guest speaker over 15 years ago now. And ahua kōrero whakapeha tēnei mo te wānanga, but he said, ko ana kōrero he pēnei, I tōna wā, ko koe te wānanga o te roa te hinātore, I roto I te pōuritanga. I nāia nei, ko koutou te whetu mārama. Yeah. Ka kapuhi au te era kōrero e hoa, ko koe te hinātore I roto I nā kōrero whakatairanga I nā kōrero a ngā mātua tūpuna. Ana I nāia nei, ko anoho e rā kōrero hei whetu mārama ki a tātou. Whetu mārama ki a tātou. Kia ora tātou. Hinātore. Hinātore. And we're going to probably use that bit too profusely through this episode. Nō reire e hoa, ko paku kōrero koe mo te ngā huringa hāretanga ou. And where to now with ngā kōrero kia Matariki me ngā ritenga kia Matariki, building on these past 3 years of you've released a book and I guess a lot of the information and research that you've collected, not only the mātauranga of your tūpuna, but the research and mohiotanga that you've collected over the years. Where to now with Matariki? How te āpōpō kia tātou ki te ao?
I suppose, bro, one of the things that I've been contemplating is where to from here. One of my fears is that the process and the practice becomes about the individual, you know, and people look towards an individual. And because I have been kind of really trying to build this space that people are asking me, well, what do we do? Well, what do we do? You know, and I think this is where it needs to shift from being a kind of a study and a kind of an area that one person takes the lead on. And actually we start practicing again. And because by practicing, the impetus goes back on to the communities or to the individuals themselves. Like, I don't have the only version of Māori astronomy. And I say that everywhere I go. And there are differences. And I would never, ever say to someone that the way that they're practicing it is incorrect. I just have my version that I've tried to share. But really, I would like the next phase of this to be about people actually practicing it. People not asking me, oh, so what do we do? As opposed to people saying, well, this is what we're doing and this is what we did. Because when that happens, it actually becomes part of who we are and what we are. And I've always said, you know, there's a difference between studying a culture and practicing a culture. You study a culture, it'll die. You practice a culture, then it's through the practice that the actual culture lives.
That's so true. I mean, like, we practice Christmas without any specialists because it's ingrained in our being or our consumerism of culture. So if we can get Matariki to that point, not in a consumer type way, but where we can practice it and generationally, people remember it that way or it's practiced that way. So I can see that. I'd like to see it like that.
Kia ora.
Kua hinātore Snow. You know, you think about it, we say, oh, what are you doing for Christmas this year? Well, what are we doing? You know, so you don't need to. Some whānau do roasts. Some whānaus have their breakfast in the morning and open their presents in the evening. Some do it at midnight. Some do it. There's not one way to celebrate Christmas. Not everyone has a Christmas tree. Some people do. You know, there's so many versions. And I think for Matariki, I'm hoping that's what it can be. Number one. Number two, I hope that we can actually start celebrating this as a annual major countrywide holiday and event. I have some massive issues with what we celebrate now. I mean, what's up with the rabbit that craps out chocolate eggs? What's that about, eh? And, you know, we're celebrating Guy Fawkes, some guy that tried to blow up Parliament on the other side of the planet. How is that connected to who we are? So why can't we celebrate these things that, you know, are part of our evolving identity and actually originate from here?
Kia ora. Hea etahi o whakaaro about practicing.
Yeah, because there's got to be some guidelines,
Some guidelines ki te iwi.
Aye.
One of the things that I've always tried to push is the timing. Hey? So the timing's really important.
You don't want to be doing it on whiro.
Well, different people have different ideas about their timing, and I can only go on what, the record I have and the research that I've done. But again, one of the really important things is to understand that Māori followed a lunar stellar calendar. It's not just a lunar calendar. It's not just the lunar phases on its own. It's a lunar phase in correlation with the rising of a particular star in the morning.
Kia ora.
So all of the months that we follow, Here Turiko, Ka Haki, Hea, Poutu, Te Rangi, they are all stars.
Yeah.
And when that star rises in the morning before the sun, you know the general month that you're in.
Kia ora.
And then once it coincides with whiro, you know what you're actually at the start of that lunar month. And your calendar cycle circles through all of these stars. And then there are other stars that you look at that'll give you a correlation with either an ecological event or the spawning of a fish or eels or the blooming of plants or when it's time to harvest or to plant that correlates to the star, that correlates to the lunar phase. So it's matching those two and often those three things up: star, moon, and ecological event.
Kia ora.
And that's how we get our timing. And that's why Matariki shifts, I guess, it's in its timing, because you've actually got to wait for different astronomical and ecological events to correlate before you start your time. The other important thing is how the bloody thing's got to be in the sky, hey? You've got to be able to see it. So I've always said that the Tangaroa lunar phase, and this is endorsed by Āpiraha Mataunui out of Ngāpuhi. This is endorsed by Weremu Tāwhai out of Te Whānau Apanui. He did a whakahui episode where he was planting kumara.
Aye.
You go on there and halfway through that episode, he says the Tangaroa lunar phase is when you look for Matariki. Same as Āpiraha Mataunui in Ngāpuhi. He says in his writings in the Māori newspapers, Tangaroa's the lunar phase, Pipiri's the month.
Yep.
Tūtaka Ngāhau of Tūhoi says Tangaroa's the lunar phase, Pipiri's the month. My ancestor says Tangaroa's the lunar phase, Pipiri's the month. That's why I've aligned my celebrations with Tangaroa lunar phase of the month of Pipiri.
Kia ora.
And because I know that the star is going to be in the sky, number one. Number two, that's when the lunar phase is at its peak. And so it's that last quarter, I think, is the celebration, the viewing and celebration period, and then you stop just before whiro, and you don't celebrate into whiro. And Weremu Tāwhai is very, very clear about that. And I think you would have spoken to Rereata.
Yeah.
And Rereata even talks about being cautious about your activities, even the words that you speak during whiro.
Yeah,
He did mention that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it aligns with a Māori way of thinking that, whiro is a very sinister, very cautious time to attempt to do anything, and you didn't celebrate on whiro. So timing, I think, is one. However, sometimes I get people say, that's not how we celebrate it here. Well, ka pai. Perhaps, though, the biggest issue is when people are trying to reconcile and take their timings for Matariki off a Western calendar.
Yeah.
That's where we get trouble.
Yeah.
I think too, when you were talking about Tangaroa, and I just had I tau mai te hina tore, ki tau te hina tore, ke te rangaharau I etahi o ngā karakia tainui, e pāna ki te tapatapa kumara, e pāna ki te whakatere waka. And there's references made to Tangaroa in the karakia. And I think how we've been looking at the Tangaroa in there is Tangaroa atua, but actually the references in the karakia are referring to Tangaroa te marama.
Aye.
Yeah, so there's a line in there, Tangaroa putai te whana putu putu. There's a few karakia where it refers to Tangaroa, and I believe it's actually talking about the marama Tangaroa.
Tika.
Te wā o Tangaroa. There's other karakia too that talk about tamatea. There's a saying in Tainui when Tainui left, it was tamatea, which isn't a good time to go in the ocean because it's rough. The seas are going to blow up. And they said, tamatea, and Hoturo says, tukuna māua ko tamatea ki te moana whawhai ai. Send us to fight. Cool. And it's in one of our other karakia, te karakia, te taonga karakia mātātua, kāhura te tamatea nunui, kāhura te tamatea.
Kāhura tamatea roroa.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of the things how we've been looking at karakia, mō tea whakatauki, when they're referring to Tangaroa, Tamate, and some other names I've found, they're actually talking about the moon.
Aye. So it's another thing to consider when
Yeah.
if you ever try to attempt to decipher such kōrero,
Yeah, and to interpret those mō tēte karakia. There's a lot of time talking about moon and stars. And even remember, maharako e rangi when I te pāngia korohere e te mate. And a lot of the pai Māori re karakia, rangi would hear the karakia and then he'd say, bro, those are whetū. Some of the whet names in the karakia. Yeah, so hoi anō, a sera I ki tau te hinātore.
Yeah, hunga nau te hinātore. You can see like through this layer of understanding or hinātore, you can see how much it is embedded. Star, astrology, lunar phases are throughout heaps of stuff now. I can see it all in there. I was just thinking I just went and looked at a karakia I have and it has tangaroa. Yeah. So it makes me think about it because it's not at sea.
You know, there are those cross references that you come to. When you get this kahinātore, you get a glimpse of one thing, then it just leads on to all of these other things and a whole lot of other things make clear. You know, and I've always, as part of this trip, like I was saying, I've always been amazed by the spiritual connections that our knowledge base has. But what it's often looked at is as myths and legends, and not proper science. But studying this space, one of the things that's really revealed itself to me is there is deep empirical science embedded within our traditional knowledge.
Kia ora.
You don't sail that expansive ocean on myths and legends. You get there on science.
You need to know something.
You don't thrive in a place like Aotearoa and live in this harsh environment without your science.
Yeah.
What happens, though, is what our people did, and this is a wonderful thing about what we did, because science can often Pākehā science, Western science, it's like a very isolated field. You look at scientists, you think, oh, they're weirdos, because they're just so closed off, and the science is about understanding these little tiny bits and how they work in isolation. Means nothing to Māori.
Yeah.
We want to know how it all connects together to create this wider body of knowledge, and to remember that and to embellish that and to celebrate that. It's wrapped around this within this cultural narrative, and it's done that so it has importance and meaning to us. So we connect with the science, right? So we have this connection to Tangaroa and to Tamatea and to all the lunar phases, and the stars are more than just giant balls of gas burning light years away. They're our ancestors and impact upon what we do every day. So if we have that connection, we'll remember our science. And I think that's the difference. It's there. It just takes a language and cultural perspective to unpack the science.
I like that, because what that does, to me, all I see is whakapapa. And it goes from a human element to what they call a deity or a godly element. But actually it talks about interconnectedness. So whakapapa. Wow.
Nā koe. Nā we. So, back to te hautapu.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
There was a connection there.
Oh, definitely. Katoa e rā kōrero e honunga tō ngā kōrero katoa. You remember e hoa when te iwa Matariki went around in the truck and stuff. I expressed to you some of the questions that were coming off the floor from whānau, ngā whānau Māori nei e pātai mai ana, wow, me pewhia mātou e whakanui i a Matariki Māori nei. Me aha mātou, how can we celebrate, how can we pay homage to Matariki in a Māori way, or is congruent to what our tupuna done in their time? And that koina ngā kōrero e putana nei. And I think it's nice that people have looked for something like really. I've seen balloon releases and and then kite flying and things like that, because people are searching for something to do. Sort of reminds me of, like, I'm going to use tangihanga for instance. A lot of tangihanga, a lot of people can't speak te reo, but they know how to sing a waiata or do a haka.
They want to express themselves at the most.
So that's their only way of expressing themselves. So te ao Māori have been looking for a way to express themselves during Matariki, but we don't know how.
If I can come back to te iwa Matariki, and, I'm really grateful, Praone, for the work that you did, and te wānanga. That was the first time that some of that recording from my ancestor actually come to life.
Wow.
And when I come to Raroero and I sat in the truck, it moved me to tears. It really did. And I'm not like that. That's not my nature. But it just kind of felt like, you know, that was the first time in 100 years that knowledge base had actually found its he tikanga tawhito hou, something that Paraoni, I remember you saying, you know, an old tradition, but giving it new life within a modern context. And so, you know, I've been thinking about how we celebrate. You know, the timing is important. We talked about the timing. And so I've put out the times according to my astronomical calendar for the next 50 years in my book. That's 35.95 if anyone's interested out of Whitcoulls and Paper Plus.
Yeah, any good bookstore. Any good bookstore.
Or you can enroll on our programs.
But one of the things that I think we're needing to be looking at is the celebration in itself. And the big celebration was the hautapu, because the hautapu gets its name from the food source or a sacred food source that's set aside to feed a god. I actually think the only remnants of this kind of practice that I'm aware of, I think tāwhara kai atu is another term that is used at times. The only real Māori group I understand, I could be wrong, but my knowledge, that still practice some of this is the Ringatu faith, where they will plant a garden, and as part of that garden, they'll have a mara tapu, mara tautane, a pure sometimes it's called, and it's a fenced-off area that is planted but not harvested. And it's harvested in the huamata, which is about this time of the year. 1st of June, I actually think they practice it because they've westernized their calendar system, and they'll take the fruits out of that garden. Now, I remember Te Kahotu telling me that they would walk out into the ocean and plant one of the kumara, or the potatoes that is grown in that garden, as planting the fruits into tangaroa. And they'll go into the forest and plant one in the forest, and they'll go into the gardens and plant one in the gardens, acknowledging the spiritual elements of all of those different domains. The origins of that finds its beginnings in the Matariki practice. So the hautapu are sacred foods that are set aside, and the 9 stars I have in Matariki, and others will have 7, kei te pai. The 9 stars I have, each of them has a connection to a part of the environment, to one of the atua, or some of our atua. To ensure that connection was made, what we did was we fed those stars. And this is whāngai te hautapu. This is the ceremony that we've been practicing. So we would kuka kai in a umu kohu whetū.
Kia ora.
So a steamy earth oven. And we would put kai in there. So we'd put an eel in there for waiti or fresh water, and a fish, salt fish for waita, salt water, and tipu anuku. Gardens had a kumara and tipu arangi. Yeah, might have a pigeon. Of course, we've been using mutton birds.
Of course we have.
Yes, that's right.
And you would cook that. And on the rising, when the star cluster rises, Pipiri, the 2 stars of Pipiri are high in the sky, and the canoe is seen just as dawn breaks. That is the moment that's called te mātahi o te tau. Right then. That's when you remove the top of the oven and the steam rises and feeds Matariki. Now, there's a whakatauki that's often, I believe, misinterpreted. It says, nā kai a Matariki, nāna I āwake nei. And people say, oh, that's the food that Matariki brings us. No, that's the food that we feed Matariki. Nāna, he āwake nei, comes down and scoops up and feeds. So it's referring to the hautapu. The Matariki celebration is about 3 things.
Kia ora.
Number 1, it's about remembering those who have passed on since the last rising of Matariki. Number 2, it's about celebrating the present, and it's about feasting on the fruits of last year Matariki that are stored in your pātaka and sharing. And the 3rd thing is about planning for the future and preparing for the new year with promise. I couldn't think of 3 better things to celebrate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about it too, bro, is it's not just it's environmental.
Yeah.
It's about fresh water. It's about the ocean. It's about land. It's about the forest. It's about it's got all of these environmental elements in it. It's also part is death, but the other one, hiwa, is life. So it's about end, the beginning. It's about te tai yahi me te tai awate, or the setting sun, the rising sun. It's got all of these elements going on inside of this celebration. And really, I think it's connected to food and food sovereignty. One of the big issues we're going to have in the future is just access to fresh water. All of these things are wrapped up in the celebration, and that, in my mind, is how I would like to see us celebrate Matariki and the hautapu.
Yeah.
You've been practicing te hautapu for a while now, and I know you charged up Hakari Mata a few years.
Gosh, yep.
And in the past couple of years, we've had
Did you beat the time?
I guess the platinum hautapu up on Rangi Atea.
the kuru lounge.
With all the bells and whistles.
Bells and whistles. And
How does somebody at home practice, how can they practice te hautapu at home and tick off or have these three things, values, I guess, or principles of te hautapu? How can they practice this at home?
Well, that's one of the misconceptions. The misconception is that you need some big elaborate celebration with 50 tohunga and lightning's got to flash in the heavens.
Yeah.
I must say, though, the Rangi Atea celebrations and what we've been doing at Cho Marae Paraone have been the premier celebrations. It's been amazing, really. And I think it culminated into last year's Matariki, well, this year's Matariki still, of being one of the best views I've ever had, and that sky was just absolutely amazing. And the bit that I will never forget is the calling out of the names of those who had passed on, and the emotion that was attached to people. Te puheri a tāhua. It was beautiful.
That's right.
But we don't need those big, massive celebrations. One of the best records I have, and you raised it before, is of this kaumātua and kuia with their mokopuna. And this was in the, this might have been the 1860s, 1870s in Taranaki, South Taranaki. They went out on their own towards the beach. When Matariki rose, the kaumātua stood up and he called out all of the names of the people that had passed on, and she wept. The kuia sat down on the beach and wept for those that had passed. And then they uncovered this kai and the steam rose. And then they went off and had a kai together to welcome in their new year. I think that's a beautiful kōrero as to how you can do it just on your own. In fact, you actually don't need the big kai ceremony. I think it's just the acknowledgement, you know. Yeah. The acknowledgement of understanding, you know, those that have passed, remembering them and celebrating the present and the future.
So even if you done, like, you had a representation of Waiti, Waita, Waipunarangi, Tupuanuku, Tupuarangi, koina ngā kainera.
Yeah.
And, you know, even if you didn't have an outdoor stove or something, you could do it in the oven with some tin foil on. Take the oven tray out.
We used the little gas burner.
Yeah, the gas burner.
Yeah.
But they might not have a gas burner.
Yeah.
So someone might just have an oven, do it in the oven, tin foil on top, go outside, take the tin foil off, and let the steam go up.
Ka maiangi te hau, yeah. So is that one of the things that you, as long as you're doing that, that's one of the things that you're nailing, for wanting of a better word?
You were doing so well being eloquent,
I know.
and then now nailing.
Darn
Ka
coffee.
whai ko hoki mai koe.
You know, it's not about, you know, while the big elaborate celebrations, because when you get into big groups like that and celebrating, well, then the expectation level lifts, right?
Absolutely.
Because you're starting to deal with things that are a little bit more elaborate, and then they start to become tapu. And the ceremony was tapu, and you're feeding an atua, so it does have that tapu element to it. But there's also the same ceremony when it's just to a smaller extent that doesn't have those same connotation, and it's about you as an individual making that connection to your environment and farewelling the dead of the year. And so, yeah, it's the intent. It's your intention right from the outset. And really the whole idea of the ceremony is, while it is done collectively, it's to reconnect you as an individual.
Tika, kia ora.
And that's why I was talking before about the division of time.
Kia ora.
You know, because it does fit into this very important element that we seem to just be continually misreading in my mind. I don't want to be that guy to say it's wrong, but I think, you know, we're missing out on really sinking ourselves into our environmental time periods by using our lunar calendar system, you know, it's becoming, I don't know, the Matariki thing has become, you know, I see that some people are celebrating Matariki for 2 months.
Okay.
You know?
Wow.
Because it fits their Gregorian calendar, eh? So, I'm busy on that week. I've got a conference this week. How about this time, eh? That's like, I think people are doing that.
That's exactly right. And so it's about trying to re-sync yourself. The difference between following a lunar calendar system and a Gregorian solar calendar that we follow now is the Gregorian calendar, you dictate to the environment when you're ready to do something. We celebrate New Year's on Jan the 1st every year because we're ready, regardless of lunar phase, regardless of what's in the sky, regardless of environmental factors, we're ready. But if you fit into a lunar calendar system, the lunar cycle and the environment dictates to you when it's ready. Yeah. And that's the main difference.
And I think it allows you to be at your best, or it allows you to fit in the proper activities according to it, instead of saying dictating what it is. That's how I like to see it, because it allows you.
Yeah, that's it.
When you were talking about the reading of the names at the last Matariki e te hautapu te taki mō tētea, ware au nau tērā mahi nui tērā, tika i riro mau. Well, this year, we've had a few tangi in our hapu, and taku hapu is very staunch to the 12 months of staying wahangu. Very, very staunch. And you need to read the book, e te iwi, Matariki te whetū tapu o te tau. What's it called in English? Matariki, the
Star of the Year?
Yeah. It talks about how we've used this 12 months to replace Matariki.
Yep.
Anyway, we're very staunch on the 12 months, I roto ia mātai tō mātou hapu. And an uncle of mine recently, he's been on the paipai and he lost his wife, auntie, last year, mā taku auntie. And he ware au. And I asked him the other weekend, actually, and it was at a tangi, and I said, I'm surprised you've been sitting on the paipai and you've been sweet, you know. And he said, well, I came up Rangiatea, and I forgot he came up Rangiatea. And he's a very staunch Christian. He's hahi mihinare. And he put Auntie's name on the list. And he might be listening, actually. And when he was telling me, I got a bit emotional. And he said, and when he heard her name being called out, and then with the karanga and everything, the whole time up there in Rangiatea, he felt okay to be able to pick up the responsibilities of sitting on the paipai, because we haven't got many left in our hapu that can do that. So that goes to show, you know, that it was a practical thing as well.
I think so,
Felt that release.
Yeah, because it's a special time. It's an intimate time you can find, And so going along with that, within your hapu, do you do something like that? Do you wait for te kawemate or tainui ki te korohanei or is there something else that indicates that time?
I'm going to talk about Ngāti Haua, and apparently we used to do it too, but not anymore. They observe the hour, and they have something called te haora. And they will have a karakia on the exact time that person left the earth 12 months ago, and they will say out their name, say ahua rite, and they will unveil the photo of that person.
Speaking of photos, your name.
Because with us, whoever goes in the 12 months, you don't see their photo. Their photo is put away. You realise that person is gone from sight.
Kia rongo ai koe i te onge.
And kia rongo ai koe i te mamai. So, and I think definitely there's a parallel there with our practices. Kia matariki, I roto i te taki mō tētea.
When you were reading those names out when we were up, and that's you know, I understood that was quite a heavy job. Ko koe te māngai, eh?
E
whakapāho ana i ngā mate o te tau.
Ka reo I moe.
Tātou.
I rongo au I a koe, ka whakahua koe te ingo o tētahi, and then you'd pause. And ka whakahua no koe te ingo o tētahi, and then you'd pause. I think there was real reverence in the way that you did it.
Me pērā ka tika kia hau nei.
Yeah, there was this reverence, and in that reverence, I could hear people wailing, you know, I could hear people crying, and there was a couple of names, and one name in particular, when you read it out, there was this shooting star that went straight down the middle of Matariki, and I thought to myself, you know, there were all of these signs that were happening in that morning, and there were, I thought the way that you did it, I really thought, see, as an individual, I've called out names of my own dead.
Yeah.
But we made that decision because we were such a mixed group to have an individual do it. And it just seemed to work really, really, really well. So, you know, I was really thrilled with that. Was another evolution of the ceremony.
Yeah.
And what is not an evolution, what happened was the tears, you know. That's something that they write about, but you can't make people cry. And it just happened naturally. It was an organic thing, and it was really cool. Yeah, with the people that die now, so when Matariki sets in the sky like it did in Tangaroa, it's set, Matariki set, it drags people like the setting sun to the abyss, and we lost a few people during that time. We lost Wharehuia during that time. We lost Heck Busby during that time. We lost some really big, my dad's younger brother during that time, so we've had a lot of deaths. Now, when Matariki is not visible, my ancestor writes this, and people still follow on after Matariki, those people are known as ngā ika ruhanui o Matariki. So Ruhanui is the name of the 13th month that we inserted into the calendar. And Ruhanui is obviously a weak,
tired,
lazy, tired,
spent,
languishing behind. So Taramainuku's net is no longer fishing. But I've heard this from fishermen say before that when they are trawling often and they're trawling up fish, there'll be the fish inside the net, but there's also fish that follow on after the net. So they actually are trying to keep up with the fish that are in the net, and they follow on after. And so those are the ikaruhanui or Matariki, or the lazy fish of Matariki that follow on into the night after the others have set. So those names are still called out at the rising of Matariki, and it happens right up until Tangaroa.
Kia ora.
Tangaroa, the moment that you... And you're talking about the reading out of the names or the photos of and the practices praone of Ngāti Hauā. For me, I think that's because they haven't become just memories yet. There's still those ties of them lingering around and being around. They haven't passed on. There's a point, I think, that we all come to accept that finally someone has actually gone. You know, and we actually get to the point that they're no longer here. And sometimes it takes longer for that to happen than others. You know, other people, for us, we realise, oh, well, they've been long time unwell, and it was expected, and we're able to sever that bond a little bit more readily than we are with some people who are young or in accidents or things that, you know, they're quite ohorere. And this is one of those ways that it's giving respect to the time that, you know, the environment has called them, and now it's time to sever that bond. That's what that's about, and make them a memory, make them something that we will follow on after, but we need to sever that bond to that physical connection we have with them and put them into a place where we can still remember and respect them, but not be caught up in the bad elements that can come from perpetual mourning for someone.
Kia ora. Tēnā koe. Ooh, hohonu tēnā.
Yeah.
And while we're in the deep, I'm going to bring us back to the shallows.
Not too shallow.
I'm going to still talk about this. So, kia koutou te hunga whakarongo. It was Te Puaheiri. His task last year was to read out, and it was quite a long list. It was about 3 pages of names of people that had passed on. And these were names that people brought to Te Hautapu last year of their whanaunga, loved ones. Anyway, he went through the list to QA the list, and then he comes up and he goes, bro, there's a name on here. And I was like, yeah, and I'm a bit unsure of the name. I was like, oh yeah, koe te ingoa. And he goes, monkey. And I was like, oh.
And I thought it was Rangi setting me up.
We all thought it was Rangi setting me up.
No, but I saw Queensland at the top of the list. I said, oh yeah, nā Rangi tēnā.
And I thought, maybe Rangi is, but someone's putting someone trying to stuff snap. But it happened to be, and my cousin could be listening, it was my cousin's cat.
And it was an innocence of intent.
And it was an innocence and sincerity.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I thought, don't kareopi Rangi kia. So I had to talk to Rangi and I said, bro, is it right to have my cousin's cat Monkey on the list? And he was kao. So,
he rārangi tangata.
Yeah, he rārangi tangata tēnei. So I just thought I'd share that story. And that's not taking any aroha away from that we have for our pets. Hoi anō. Ko te hautapu, ko te taki mō te ana hei tuku, hei kupu ki a tātou ki te tangata kua ngaro.
And that's what I remember the most was going through those names. And because it dawned on me, kua hinatore, it dawned on me that these people have entrusted the names of their loved ones to me. So I had to practice it and I had to find out the person. How do you say this name? How do you say this name? Is this a double up? And I remember that night just like reading it over and over again. And I thought to myself, I'll give each name a breath, which was enough for a pause, for a whakaaro. And then, so the next person had their own breath and their own thing. Yeah, that's what I remember. It was pretty...
Very thoughtful.
Yeah, it had to be very thoughtful. If someone was saying my whanaunga's name, someone was saying my mum's name, my sister's name, I'd want them to do the same. So that was...
It's like sometimes when you get a tangihanga and whoever's doing, like, whoever the priest is and he's, like, saying their name wrong. It's like,
or, hey, kei koraka ke te tangihanga o tōna.
You have any thoughts, Erica, of the last hautapu?
That was probably my most favourite one so far. I just really liked how the group was massive. We're massive. And in comparison to the first couple, when we went up Hakarimata, those times we managed to catch mornings that were very cloudy. So we done this huge climb up the Hakarimata. There's like thousands of steps. And then we get there and it was cloudy. So it was really cool last year to have like a picture perfect clear night. And we got a really, really, really good view of Matariki.
And I think as a practice, it's been refined because you guys have done those hard bits, the trial and error, and it's becoming, more of a fine art or an easier way to practice.
Yeah, I think that I was fortunate because the record that is left is pretty detailed. Exactly when and what. And it's not just from my ancestors' record, but it's from others that I've gone out to research. Even talking to Poraone and the fact that the person who owned the kauta that's on his marae did the same ceremony. So there's all of these connections. But one of the clear things I remember my grandfather saying to me, he says, look, I think there's a couple of stages to this, this was years ago. He says, my ancestor's job was to record what he had. My grandfather, his was to hold on to it.
Wow.
He said, yours is to disseminate, yours is to share. You see, but there's a generation after you and they've got the biggest role and that's the practice.
Kia ora.
And it's the practicing that actually will make it live. And if it's not practiced, then, we're just studying it. And so really it's important that we get to that stage, and I've been lucky to have the three of you, ko toru hikoine, that have been part of the ceremony, and been part of the making this an actual living practice.
Kia ora.
Ko rangatira māua mātau i o mihi e hoa. Engari, ko te ao Māori ko rangatira i a koe, i roto i ngā mahi rangahau, i roto i ngā tau, i roto i tō whakaaro nui kia kaua ngā kōrero e kaipunungia.
Kia ora, tega.
I te mea kārehe oranga o te mātauranga ki te kore te mātauranga e horahia. No reira, kamihi mātau katoa ki a koe. And nice to have you back on Taringa. And yeah, we're always plugging for you as well.
Yeah, I reckon you get the most name drops.
Yeah. Both in good and bad. Ngā manakitanga kia koe whakaoti haere nei i ngā kauwhau ki tēnā taha o te moana tā pokopoko a tāwhaki. Kei a koe te kupu whakamutinga?
Tēnā koutou e hoa mā o tira ki te hunga e mātaki mai nei, e whakarongo mai nei ki tēnei kaupapa a tātou. Ka tika hoki taku mihi ki a Taringa. Ki tēnei kaupapa e hora nei i ngā kōrero ao tātou mātua tīpuna ki te marea. Kei te te mihi ki a koutou e hoa, me tēnei kaupapa a tātou. Ko au kei te taraiwa mea ki i te kaupapa nei, ko koutou te hunga manaki a hau i tā tātou kaupapa no reira ka nui te mihi. Tēnei hautapu e tū mai nei paraone, koira te kaupapa kai mui a tātou i tēnei wā. Kia hoki anō tātou ki tō marae, ki te tuku i ngā mate o te tau, i te mea he whakaaro au, he mate nui kei mui a tātou, nā mate kei rungi a tātou te ao Māori, no reira me hoki ki te tuku i a rātou, o tira ki te whakanui i te rewatanga mai o Matariki i te tau Māori. Nō reira, kia ora e homa.
Kia ora,
Tēnā
brother.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koe. He rawe ngā kōrero, tino pairau atu. And because Rangi was one of our first guest speakers on Taringa. All those episodes ago.
Yeah.
And you can see definitely the shift of consciousness
Aye.
over that time through his mahi. And I'll say it, our mahi, tātou mahi.
Kia ora.
And I'm not just talking about us three, and I'm not talking about te wānanga Aotearoa. I think everybody bringing Matariki up into normality again.
Aye. And
Normalising.
how long has that been? Because to me, that's pretty quick within our own circles, which is, you know, can be big enough, how long it's been socialised or how quickly it's been socialised amongst us.
Well,
How long has it been? 3, 4?
I
5?
first met Rangi when I was doing Te Toi Paitahi at Waikato Uni. And it was quite funny, actually, because he sent me this email asking about star photos and stuff. And the way that he'd written it, I was like, oh, what's this guy on about astrology? And
Well, he's not here
how
to,
am I going
he's
to
not here to
take
defend himself
photos
now.
of
Come on.
astrology?
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, oh, I don't know if this guy's for real. And then anyway,
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, keen as to meet up, all good. Anyway, met up with him, and then he was the real deal.
Yeah,
I was
man.
like, this is not astrology, this is Māori astronomy. And so that was, I think, 2015. And from there to now, what I have learnt from him is massive.
Ka tika hoki. Koina te patanga nui kia haunei nā. He's taken us along with him. You know, me mihi ka tika kia koe rangi. He's taken us along with him. And as he says, he can't do this alone. His job is to disseminate. And it's for us to carry it on. So, and that's the greatest thing about it. And Praone talked about it. It's about knowledge. Knowledge is not knowledge unless it's shared.
Yes.
You know, and that should be a common phrase amongst everyone, especially in Māoridom now, where people can get a bit elite or they want to hold on to certain things that makes them think that they're going to gain, you know, an advantage in the social, you know, ladders of Te Ao Māori or whatever it is. But, you know, he's bringing us along with him.
Yeah.
It is definitely something there, and I've actually commented about it on Facebook, and it's probably worth another wānanga. There are times, I believe, when people are ready for the knowledge to be shared. And I think that the timing was good for this knowledge in relation to Matariki to be shared. I was watching one of Che's vids a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about how, and kia ora e hoa, if you are listening, he was talking about how nothing's really lost i roto i ngā mātauranga. It just goes dormant for a while, or it's hidden, and then when it comes back, it comes back when it should. And the proper people, the right people, bring that knowledge back that has been lost, but there's a time for it to come back. So,
Tika.
Hoi anō, koe nā ngā whakaaro, and I think ko tā tātou waiata, no, I know that kāre he waiata i tū atu i tēnei, hei tautoko i nā kōrero arangi. Te waiata o te wiki ko Rongo Mai, and this was composed by Hirini Melbourne, and we've used a few of his ana waiata, and this is about Rongo Mai, the appearance of Rongo Mai, which is known to the rest of the world as Halley's Comet. And he composed this waiata back in 1980, the last sighting of Rongo Mai.
Kia ora.
Even though i roto i ngā kōrero a te ao Māori, that we see Rongo Mai at other times. Anyway, koenei tana waiata, Rongo Mai, and he is also no ngai tūhoi.
He karawa no...
Koina, karawa no Rangi Mataamua. No reira, anei te waiata hei tautoko i ngā kōrero was made famous by te whare wānanga o Waikato as the winning poi 1986 at the then Polynesian Māori Performing Arts Festival.
Kia ora.
Te Whitiwara Porinihia.
Whitiwara Porinihia.
Aotearoa, that's what they used to call it.
Whitiwara Porinihia.
Which is now Te Matatini.
Te Matatini.
Hoi anō, whakarongo mai.
Roki nei e te whanau marama i te rangi e kia rere noa au i ngā parihau o te whakaatea Rere takiwa Huri ai a miorangi Huri ai a miorangi Tira marama Te awa I tūroa I te rangi Kia rere noa au I tōna puhi Hune toroa Kia mihi noa au Ki te hunga whaturangi Te marino I te rangi Kia rere noa au I te raukura Horongo mai Rere matao Ki te hono I te rongo Ki te hono I te rongo
Oh yeah, take us away.
Oh, we used to always sing it a bit faster, and we got in trouble when we sang it in front of Timothy.
Oh.
Yeah. Being young St. Stephen's Bull, singing it too fast. Pēnei koutou, ia koutou mo iana.
You maybe would have find a clip of it on YouTube.
Yep.
Of them doing that.
But he wā tātāua. I think that's my second favourite Hirini song.
Kia ora.
Cool.
My favourite one is one about Hene Moana.
Hene moana.
Hoi anō. Hoi anō. Kua hina tore he nui ngā pura whakaaro.
Kia ora.
I hina tore ai te hinengaro. Nō reira, ka mihi rā, e te iwi nui tonu e whakarongo mai nei kia mātou, kia tautoru.
Not the pots.
Yeah, not the pots.
Or the belt.
No.
Tautoru.
E mihi atu nei kia koutou. Ana ara no te kōrero tirohi a Matariki kua noho I ngā pari o tautoru, I ngā puke o tautoru. Nō reira, anei mātou e mihi nei, tēnā koutou hei kona mai rā.
Hei kona.
Ki o, whakarongo ki te tangi a te kori mako Kōrero flowing out the hooker force Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds Kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount Nā kona whakapiri mai ki te Kaupapa tino whakahira Whakarongo pi kari mai Hare mai, o Taringa hare mai We gotta gather up close everybody Gather up close everybody Kani move that body Kani move that body
Taringa, brought to you by Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. To listen to more episodes, search for us on your podcast app and subscribe. Taringa, whakarongo mai.